Today I want to check out some lines played by Martin Miller in his cover of Sultans of Swing with Josh Smith. He does this was posted sort of 5 years ago, I think. He does these live in the studio performances that are unbelievable, and he gets special guests on. There's always some really, really good gems in there. These lines aren't super tricky. There's a monster lick at the end, which I think is really cool. That's sort of a little bit more technically challenging. But for the most part, these are really quite straight ahead licks that you can get into your playing. We're going to focus on the first sort of 6 improvised lines that he plays, leading from the A7 to the 1 minor, which is D minor. Most of these licks are using the D Harmonic Minor Scale to play over that A7 chord. So you can create your own licks based on this scale. Sounds really cool over the A7. So let's jump into the first lick. This is what it sounds like.
Coming out of rain, you stop and hit.
We're going to talk about it in terms of A7. It's the major third. We're going to go to the perfect fourth, and then return to the major third, then the minor third, and then the major third. It's a bit of an enclosure around that major third of A. Right, then we go to the perfect fifth, then the flat 7, so that's, then we're going to hit the flat 9. Those last 3 notes makes a diminished triad, which is what happens inside of the harmonic minor scale, and even the natural minor scale. It's just highlighting that A7 really nicely. And then we're going to go up to the minor third, back to the flat 9, to the root note. So that's from the start. And we're going to land on the flat 7 to the sharp 5 or the flat 13, whichever way you want to think about it. Remember, we're talking about it in terms of over the A7. So it's highlighting the altered sound really, really well. Right? So we've got... And then we're going to jump down to the major third, minor third, back to the major third. So far over the A7 we've got this. And then we reach the resolution of D minor, which he highlights with major 9, the root note, and then I think it's the perfect fifth at the end. It's really quiet when he plays. It's quite dynamic. It's cool. So the whole lick sounds like this. Pretty cool, right? Let's hear it in context.
Coming out of rain.
It's pretty sweet, right? So now let's move on to the next lick. Now this next lick, well, it's not really a harmonic minor scale. He's just highlighting the chord change really well. Let me just find it.
The jazz go down.
Here it is. It's just highlighting, it's sort of like a country lick, right? I think it might be a quote from the original track.
Stop and hear the jazz go down.
Pretty cool, right? Let's go through it quickly. We've got the, what is that? We're talking in terms of A7, right? Because the lick's over A7. So we're going to be focusing around the 12th fret B, which is our major second, bending up to the major third, right? And then we're hitting perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and then we're doing a pre-bend from the major third and releasing it to the major second, and then landing on the root note, which is A. Pretty cool, right?
Go down.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
All cold. But mind you, he's strictly rhythm.
How is that?
All cold. But mind you, he's strictly rhythm.
Let's check it out in depth. So he's starting like with a pre-bend from, remember it's over A7. I'm going to stop saying that. We're starting with a pre-bend from the root note. However, we're starting on the flat 9 and then releasing it to the root note. And then hitting the major third of A. How cool is that? And then just walking up and back down. The harmonic minor scale, which is also in this instance, the section is actually just the natural minor scale. Right, so starting on the perfect fifth of A, the sharp 5, the flat 7, and then we're hitting the flat 2 or the flat 9. Then we're going back to the root note, flat 7, sharp 5, perfect fifth. And in that instance, we've landed on the minor, the D minor, right? So we've got this. That's the end, which is highlighting the D minor quite nicely. So the whole lick in context.
Oh, cool. But mind you, he's strictly rhythm.
Pretty cool, right?
Oh, cool. But mind you, he's strictly rhythm. He don't want to make it cry or make
So let's move on to the next one. Check it out.
it sing.
This is cool.
Want to make it cry or make it sing.
So this is like a really simple pattern. However, I'll explain it. It's based around the half whole scale, or the diminished scale people call it. So what it's doing is basically taking all of the notes and moving it around in a symmetrical pattern. So I'll just give you the lick because it's really cool. Starts on the major third of A, the fifth of A, and the flat 2 of A, or the flat 9. Right, now this is a diminished chord. So you might have heard of this before, this sort of cliche. With diminished chords, you can stack them, you know, in terms of minor thirds. You might have heard that. Sorry. You might have heard that lick before. It's just minor thirds stacked on top of each other. That is the theory behind a diminished chord. However, you can do this cool little trick with the half whole scale, which is literally just a half step, and then a whole step, and then a half step, and then a whole step, etc. Right? So we're back at the root note. You can do this cool thing with that chord where you follow the notes of that pattern. So what he's doing is he's starting here, going back 1 fret, and then returning. And then that sequence repeats in intervals of minor thirds. So a minor third on the guitar is the distance of 3 frets. So 1, 2, 3. And then we do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. And then he lands on an F triad. Now I am adding in that extra note. He just plays the G, B, and E strings. All the way up. Cool, here it is in context.
You can sing. This ain't
Pretty sweet, right? Got 2 more licks to go. Let's move on. Here we go.
make the scene. He got a dead time.
It's based around the harmonic minor scale, but we're adding 1 note, and then he lands quite nicely on the root note of D. So this is what it is, nice and slow. Remember, it's over the A7, starting on the root note, going to the flat 2 or the flat 9, back, flat 7, sharp 5, and then we skip down to the major third of A. So that's, and then we go to the minor third of A, and then we go to the flat 9 of A, the root note of A. So that's, flat 7 of A, the sharp 5 of A, the 5th of A, and then we're landing on the root note of D minor, which is where that resolution happens. Here it is in context. Pretty cool, right? Pretty simple but effective, highlighting the chord changes with that harmonic minor scale, and then resolving quite nicely on the root note, the chord tone of the resolution, which is the D minor. Let's check out the last one. Now this last one's monstrous. Now I'll slow it down and I'll play it in a few different speeds. If you do want the tab, it is available with a subscription for my Patreon page, so check that out. Let's jump into it.
Is doing all right.
Now, in true Martin Miller fashion, he is absolutely blazing. Now, there's a multitude of things in here. There's a lot of chromaticism happening here, especially at the end. He's sort of focused around, I guess, an altered scale, which is, I don't want to get too in-depth with the theory, but it's a mode of the melodic minor scale. And it features all the altered notes. This is a really, really hip sound. It's really cool. So we're going from A7 to F in this instance. Let me play the lick for you really slow. It's a 2-bar phrase, landing on beat 1, the 3rd bar with that F. So it's all 16th notes or semiquavers if you're in, I guess, England or Australia, right? Check it out. This is half speed. So even at half speed, it's a bit of a handful. Let's try it at 3/4 speed. It's pretty tricky, right? So if I were you and you wanted to get this under your fingers, I would start at that 50% speed. It's really handy that YouTube has this. Start at that 50% speed, practice it endlessly. You know, we'll go through it slowly in a second. I'll go through the notes so you can check it out. And then this would be full speed. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. Let's see. Pretty close. So I'm not actually alternate picking that. I'd have to really work at the alternate picking. I'm doing a lot of pull-offs and like slides, I guess. Especially here. I don't know if that's how he plays it. I'd have to really, really work at that to get that alternate picking. I'm not the kind of player that Martin Miller is. I think I actually quite like the sound of that fluid motion throughout the lick. All right, so let's go through this lick in a little bit more depth. Remember, the tabs are available on my Patreon. Here we go. We're starting on the root note, going to the flat 9 or the flat 2, going to the minor 3rd, then going to the major 3rd. Remember, this is all over A, and then we're hitting the 13th fret E, which is a big jump, to the sharp 5 of A. Right, so far we've got this. Then we're going to go down to the sharp 11 or the sharp 4, major 3rd. Right, so far we've got this. Then we're going to do some chromaticism from the minor 3rd to the root note. So far we've got this. A little bit slower. 12th fret G, which is the flat 7, 9th fret B, which is the major 7, 11th fret G, which is the major 6th. So we've got two little sort of patterns here. And then we're going to land on 10th fret of the B string, which is the flat 7, go chromatically up to the root note. That's halfway through the lick, right? In my opinion, we're at home base once we hit that line, once we hit that note, right? Because the rest of it is just descending and it's chromatic and it's sort of a little bit nicer under the fingers than the debacle that was happening at the start. So check this out, real slow. Then from this point, we're going to descend. We're going to go 10, 9, 8, which is root note, major 7, flat 7. We're going to go to 10th fret G, and then we're going to go chromatically. We're going to play 4 notes that are chromatic. And that is from the sharp 5 to the perfect 4th. So we're hitting some really interesting notes. And then we're going to do the same frets on the D string from the 10th fret to the 7th fret chromatic. So those 3 string sets, or 3 strings are. Then we're going to do the same thing on the A string. So we've got a little bit of a pattern happening. And then we're going to go back up to 10th fret, and then land on 8th fret of the A string, which is our root note of F, which is the resolution. Right, That's where it sort of changes key in that song, or changes from D minor to the relative major, which is F. That's the whole idea. So that whole lick, nice and slow, sounds like this. A little bit faster. Here we go. So work at that at your own tempo or not. Try the first sort of few licks. It's really, really fun to get happening. I will provide a backing track to my Patreon members that's a good little tool to help practice these lines. So hopefully you got something out of that, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.